Hi, it's Steve and Joe from Freshagenda, and Steve, we're back for the first time for 2022. How exciting!
It's quite exciting. It's 8 weeks since we sat down and did this, and we have to say that we had to go and find the gear and work out how some of it worked again, but we'll be right.
Yeah, but we're here on the 2 of 2022.
Yeah, it's a weird looking date when you look at it like that.
Yeah.
So this week, Joanne, we're going to talk about some market updates. We're going to look at another spectacular GDT event and your chart of the week from your musings of dairy data.
Mm-hmm.
So we kick off. So we've put out a January outlook, finished that off last night. And rather than go through that, because subscribers can look at that, just some of the things I think that stand out and some happening developments. Look, the biggest thing, stressed milk. And the recovery from that, I think, is the most topical thing out there right now. We've got a bit to run before we see the full effect of the stress in the next months in New Zealand with that little weather chart in the bottom right there. Well, that's a soil chart. In fact, one of the worst it's been for some time. So we're going to see some heavy year-on-year declines in coming months as there's simply been no rain since late November, it seems.
Yeah.
So that'll chip away at global milk availability. Some other interesting picks around that page there. We see skyrocketing fertiliser prices that are starting to ease, but hardly when you look at that. But that's being felt around the world, around the farming world, and dairy is coming to terms with that. And when we start to see farmers getting ready for spring production and cropping. In the coming months, that's really going to burn. So we see some milk price relief underway. It's whether that arrives large enough and sufficient to provide enough cash flow that that fertiliser issue doesn't become a big one, because that'll simply slow down yields.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It's a contest between those prices that are rising, farm gate prices for milk that are rising, and the spiralling input costs. It's fertiliser, but it's also a whole lot of other
things
inputs as well. Yeah.
So those charts don't tell the full story.
No, but it really is a supply side issue. So what do we see with global trade, Steve?
Trade is going along just about where we were last year, same time. So it hasn't collapsed at all. It's been quite.
So this resilient. Is up to November. This data,
yeah. And then we've seen it's mixed when you look at the commodities, as you can see there. But the good cheese is still quite resilient. Skim milk powder is remaining quite strong. It's the fat side that's a bit weaker.
Yeah, with those higher prices flowing through.
That's right. And then regional terms, some countries have moved up the league table that we don't always see at the top.
Yeah, that's right.
Strong tendering in North Africa. Mexico has had a big resurgence in skim milk powder and cheese, quite strong. But China's there, obviously. And down towards the bottom end, we've got some relaxing in Southeast Asia. South America's doing more of its own, and the UK and EU with that impact of Brexit is still wading through the numbers.
So Southeast Asia is that region that we do talk about a lot, being highly price sensitive. So I guess we're expecting to see that. Yeah,
we are. We haven't seen a lot of it yet, and they're still hanging in there with powder purchases. Cheese is very resilient, so that's still holding, and it looks like something we do talk about in our outlook is what's we're starting to see more relaxation of restrictions there, that they're learning to live with the virus just like everybody else, and so the opening up is underway. So that's probably a positive spin for those regions as more of that food service convenience business turns back on or gets bigger. So New Zealand punched out some trade data yesterday as well, and something we always eagerly await is what's that peak? How's the peak finish off? And that's just showing whole milk powder exports. New Zealand's exports of whole milk powder were up unusually because actually got a lot less product. But to China, it was down in the month of December, but you've got to look at several months here because we see some different patterns. So year on year from August is up.
It's pretty much holding to last year though, by the looks of that, isn't it?
It is, despite seriously elevated prices.
Yeah.
So speaking of New Zealand, China and all that, there was a big event on GDT last night, which was very positive, the index going up more than 4% again. They're the results across the commodities, so pretty strong on whole milk powder and butter, which just keeps kicking. And cheese has gone to extreme prices. So just a bit of relativity there, what's happening in directions elsewhere. It's always those little arrows are important. I think they're rather cute. We see whole milk powder prices rising in Europe. Skim is also still on the march after Christmas, as is butter, as is cheese. So the European market is still tightening. Demand's still working and still limiting supply. So that's up across the board. The US has gone into a bit of a funk though. There was a bit of a surge with milk going off, and then we saw a lot of tightening, and now it's just flattening out. We've seen some stunning reductions in fat prices. It dropped $1,000 in a few days. Cheddar and skim milk powder going sideways at the moment.
Yeah.
And you can see the differences between regions. There was good demand, better than average across the board. Butter pretty level with where it was last time, but it was a good price rise as we saw. So good demand, and we saw good involvement from North Asia equals China in terms of buying. They're the tonnages, so that's important to note that they're the tons, and you can see that the kick up in skim milk powder, I think, is the most interesting thing in this event. There's been a lot of talk about them building up stocks and being overstocked, and therefore would expect that to fall. But this time we've seen a jump in buying at fairly elevated prices, so that's got to be a bullish sign that we've still got some way to go yet.
Sure.
It seems unreal. The whole milk powder market is very strong, still somewhat below that recombined value.
Yeah, although it
did close a bit.
Yeah, it is closing a little bit.
Yeah.
But still, again, a bargain.
Yeah, still a bargain, and still well below the futures market. Just a bit of historical comparison there, that we've gone past that peak of season, usually a bit of a lull, and then it kicks up.
Yep.
Except we're kicking up at a much higher level this time around. Skim milk powder, there's some differences. So the Europeans still earning a premium above New Zealand product.
Yeah, which is a reversal of a long-term trend.
Several events in a row now we've seen that.
That's right.
As prices move higher, so that just that tight European supply. And awards night.
Yes, you're awarding a few things, acknowledging some great efforts here.
Yes, absolutely. So we're almost at the peak of historical index levels. We showed this last time. I had to go and find this a few months ago. We used this, and it was a fair bit down the chart on that left-hand side.
Yeah, but we're closing in.
We are. So skim milk powder, we've had the longest rally of any product in GDT's history. 13 events. We've seen the best cheese price ever, the best butter price ever. And we convert the auction results to a New Zealand milk value based on Fonterra's formula. And it's nearly $11 a kilo, which seems unreal.
Yeah.
Stunning.
Don't see that very often.
Chart of the week, what have you got?
Well, chart of the week, going back to the US, and you referred a bit earlier when we were doing those comparative charts with pricing. The American market's going a little bit south while all this is going on. A lot of that to do with perhaps food service not being quite as bullish as many would have hoped by now.
Or stuttering,
Yeah, and we've still got some of those logistics issues that are perhaps hampering the market a little bit there. But interesting, just with everything going up, the US is going the other direction.
Maybe a little bit of milk loosening.
Sure.
The fall in milk, with positive signs of margins, maybe a little bit of that stuff.
Yeah, although we still did get that slightly negative result in December. So, really interesting that the market's certainly responding very...
it's dynamic.
Yeah, it's very dynamic. Never a dull moment.
Okay, that wraps us up. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again soon. It's goodbye from me and goodbye from you.
Yep.